Opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not WSTU. WSTU does not endorse any products mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU.
The Treasure Coast longest-running local talk radio show is on the air. The Treasure Coast Forum. Get interested, get educated, get involved, and give us a call with your opinions at 220-9788. And here's your host of the Treasure Coast Forum.
Hello, you're listening to WSTU 1450 Martin County's Heritage Station, and I am back with Jamie and me, myself, and I, the host, John.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I am doing pretty good. This storm, or kind of like 10-minute drop down, was very unexpected.
Yeah, I know. Okay. So you want to kind of just jump into space right now?
Sure, of course.
Or sciences. Okay. So I'm going to steal it for a bit. I kind of want to jump into the science. This week, there is like extremely interesting study that I found on the BBC. The title of it, Lab-Grown Brain Cells Play Video Game
I was
Pong.
going to talk about that too.
Okay. Do you want to steal it from me then?
No, I think you got this. I
Okay.
can chime in.
Okay. So this was like an interesting concept within and of itself. So apparently, researchers have been growing like brain cells in labs since like the 1970s. And wait, oh shoot, God. Okay, sorry, I'm fluttered. Okay, so it was first produced mini brains is like kind of what they were kind of do. It's a collection of like 800,000 cells grown from mouse embryos, and essentially what were doing was they were hooking electrodes up to it and seeing how it would like interact with the Pong game itself, because via the electrodes they could sense like how far the ball was, like the paddles and everything. So even during it, they were like resetting the ball where it was, and then it would take the mouse brain or the mini brain up to like 5 minutes to relearn how to play the game.
Which is, and what I found pretty interesting about that was the amount of time that it took for the brain to stimulate that. That is a very short amount of time, considering that it's not labeled as sentient, but because of that, seems pretty advanced in my opinion. Yeah.
It was interesting because they were saying it has technically no conscience, which is
exactly.
It's fairly weird because I mean, like you're taking actual brain neurons and then you're just wiring it up to essentially whatever, and then it doesn't even have a consciousness to know it is playing Pong. It's just kind of its own reality.
Yeah, and that's why humans are like kind of considering this. Kind of going to this. That's why humans are one of the most intelligent species on the earth, because we know that we're alive. Like if you look at ants or maybe like some other insects, they just kind of do life, if that makes sense. So we can actually like consider, okay, I'm existing, I have eyeballs, I have a brain, whatever, just all these things that we realize allows us to be one of the smartest species on this earth. Interesting.
Yeah, okay. So do you want to steal the show for a bit and talk about space or the like?
Did you see the double star system kind of thing that I think, what was it, that James Webb kind of discovered? The Dusty Star Mystery. Did you see that?
I heard a little bit about it. If you could explain it.
So basically, the James Webb Telescope captured this image of a double star system. Now, I'm pretty sure like that's kind of just a solar system that has two stars, pretty much. Yeah. All right. So 5,000 light years from Earth. And what's interesting, okay, so the term they used is dust shells, the rings of dust shells that extended, millions of kilometers out. And so meaning dust shells, like kind of like are you familiar with like what the kind of dust shells kind of like their components of what they are made of? Because I don't know. Um,
I am not. I'm pretty sure it's usually like random sediments like metals.
okay, yeah, that makes sense. Um, so more about that, yes. There aren't. Let's see what else. Um, I didn't look about too much of this. However, um, it was just a discovery that was made, and just like the image was captured and stuff like that. Yeah, it's pretty interesting.
Oh,
Oops.
okay.
Mhm.
So I believe we were kind of like too busy kind of rambling last week to kind of cover this, but within like the past like 2 to 3 weeks, the DART system actually went off on Dimorphos, which was essentially an asteroid that was kind of like floating by the Earth, and NASA's like
Mhm.
kind of intention was like, hey, let's see if we could like possibly prevent asteroids coming into like Earth's atmosphere by using like essentially rockets as missiles to deflect it and then kind of throw it off on a different path. So they actually did confirm that it actually did throw it off the trail a little bit. But I think we've talked about this before. In my opinion, it's kind of like it's an interesting things. Like some people were thinking about like actual explosives and stuff, but it's just a strange
So,
research.
oh, okay. So it's kind of it wasn't more towards like directed towards Earth in a sense.
No, I was actually watching the live broadcast. It was fairly slow, but it was interesting because you just see it slowly approaching, then the screen just went red. So
Oh, oh, okay.
you know,
Wow. Wow. Oh my goodness. The things. Oh wow. We're getting to be able to control a lot more things than we see. And actually, one of them that wouldn't be human or global warming. Because okay, so the thing is, the Earth is increasing temperatures pretty much not rapidly, but kind of faster now that we have all these carbon emissions and stuff like that. So, um, what everybody okay, so what we're thinking or like what I've seen before is that we're gonna be like fully electric by the year 2030. Don't know how well that's gonna go. I've already a lot of car companies have already been
yeah.
creating a lot of electrical stuff.
And there's some
So
problems with that too, though, like Tesla and whatnot. It's like battery wise, it's not very sustainable. So we would need to actually find like a different source of like, I, I don't know, like materials to actually charge them because it's like lithium. It's highly destructive to kind of mine for it in the first place. And then,
mhm,
I mean, it's
yeah.
every so often you'll actually need to throw it out because it just kind of breaks down.
Yeah, exactly. And that's that's one of the things where they're saying that having electric cars isn't necessarily better than having gasoline because of what it takes to actually make the Tesla battery and stuff like that.
It's
So,
also interesting because I was reading some articles over the weekend. You usually hear about that, like electric cars in the like in the US, but I was reading about it. Apparently, it's like 50% of China's like main, like city wise, because like the rural areas usually don't have that sort of technology, have
mhm.
converted to electrical vehicles. It's it's kind of
Wow.
it's incorporated into the culture a little bit, which it kind of makes sense. So it's kind of like the saying time is money is taken kind of an extreme. So they'll have like you have your battery and they'll essentially take it out for you and then they have machines to take it out and then put another one in within like 5 minutes. So you're essentially wasting no time at all instead of just like charging and whatnot. So it's kind of like government
Oh.
handled and everything. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Wow, wow. Just when I thought we were getting advanced, they're one step ahead of the game, seems like.
I don't know. You don't really hear much about China. It's kind of like a relatively close circuit because we don't communicate directly that
Yeah,
much.
yeah, that too. That too. All right, let's see what else we got. Um,
Okay.
let's see.
Okay. So, just as a brief other point of view, I this was another thing we actually didn't cover last time, and I actually did want to. So OPEC was cutting oil production by 2 million barrels per day. So
Whoa.
price increase was already taking place. So, you know,
Oh, right. And actually, I watched a video about that. Like people very much were kind of blaming Biden for the high oil prices and stuff like that. But it's been in the process, in the works, pretty much for about, even when Trump was in office, it's been kind of, the oil prices have been increasing in the gasoline prices. So basically, what what Biden did was, understandable, because like fracking, no fracking, whatever. So he stopped getting oil from, I believe it was Alaska, somewhere in Alaska, if I'm not mistaken. He got like this company to where he got all his oil from, and which is why we were oil independent. So what we did was we were getting oil from there, and basically, yeah, being self-sufficient and stuff like that. So the problem with that was it wasn't going to be sustainable, and it was bad for the environment. So what Biden did was he stopped. He wrote kind of a what is it, like, he kind of signed off from there, and he didn't want to use them anymore. So this has been happening for a while. It just didn't have. It just shows more in Biden's running than Trump's. So yeah, it was an interesting thing about the gasoline prices and them increasing and stuff like that. And yeah, pretty much pretty interesting.
It is interesting. And then things like, just another side note for things like presidency, like usually see like the impact they actually have on the economy, like within like the next president's term. So it, like, if people don't know that, it kind of causes like a disassociation and then a reassociation with the other, depending if it's good or bad. It influences their opinion.
Exactly.
So,
Oh my goodness. Everything.
Them's the life.
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh, this was also another big article. So last week, and kind of like the prior month, essentially, North Korea has been kind of going on like its own mini crusade. So experts were kind of like speculating the jump is essentially they're messing around with upgrading their military fleet to kind of like ballistic missiles. So far they've launched a couple missiles into like the South Pacific Sea. They've also launched a missile over Japan within
Right, I saw that.
last 2 weeks. Is the first time they've done that since 2017, which is quite insane.
So right. It went over Japan, right?
Yeah. They also didn't warn them in the process, so it kind of just happened sporadically.
Oh my goodness, that is scary. What? Why would? And I think right. What you said, it was the most since 2017.
Yeah, it was the first time since 2017.
Oh, first time. Okay.
I mean, at the same time, it's in a weird position because, I mean, like, you have North Korea and then directly under you have South Korea. So I mean, if they can already do that, they can just. I'd say it's kind of just waiting until it's time, in their opinion, if they actually want to instigate, which I could see them doing. But I don't know.
Yeah, I always thought about that, how South Korea is such in a vulnerable spot.
Okay.
And
I have a question. How do you feel about like kind of like world relations in like the terms of war right now? Because I mean, like, as on a global scale, we have Ukraine and Russia. Russia, in my opinion, like at least within the first few weeks, and then like even now, still having gone all out with actual like military technology, and they only started like recently bombing with like actual missiles, like the ones that we've given to Ukraine on like random places. I mean, like within the past week, there was like kind of like amusing stories, but kind of like messed up ones. For example, like the Crimean Bridge that was recently blown up. One of the like, I believe it was like one of their officials. There was like a famous happy birthday song for like Franklin for Kennedy from gosh, I can't remember her name. It's a famous Hollywood actor.
Okay.
Gosh. Okay. Marilyn Monroe. Okay. There we go.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Okay.
Dude.
Yeah. So it was a famous song from her. And then it just had Happy Birthday from her paired with the Crimean Bridge to President Putin. Well, no, to Putin because it was his 70th birthday. And then they were essentially trying to like You know, it's an
So
interesting situation as a whole.
so what does that represent? Like Marilyn Monroe, why would
Happy
she be displayed?
birthday to a president.
That's it?
Yeah. Does
I
that
wonder
okay?
what?
What's that?
Why would
It's
out of
kind of
all
like a
people?
it's like a stark contrast. You know,
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
it's like a stark contrast, kind of like
A star.
irony.
Yes. Okay. Okay. That's very, I guess, cruel and unexpected, but okay.
I don't know, but I mean, we have that. Then we also have like South Korea. Then we also have China. China with
Mm-hmm.
Taiwan. It's kind of like a perpetual cycle. I think we've talked a little
Yep.
bit about this, but I mean, like, it's kind of like it's definitely developed in like recent months. Recent months. I mean, like China and Taiwan. Like I believe, like maybe like 2-3 weeks ago, the U.S. had like an entire agreement saying that we can't have like essentially like cutting. It was like first kind of like more so cutting edge like technology in China. I was like, okay, that makes sense. And then it was mainly pertaining to like US like technology for like weapons and stuff, as well as chips. And then it kind of like devolved more onto the chip side. Because I mean, for
Mm-hmm.
one, Taiwan is kind of like a major exporter of like electronics, such as like chips. And then if I think we've talked about that before, but if it actually did fall into China's hands, that would kind of cause a huge imbalance within the West as a result
Right,
of
right.
that. And then, I mean, it's like chips are technically everywhere. They're in your computer, your phone, cars. Can't,
Mm-hmm. The chip shortage as well. Yeah.
yeah. And then, I mean, even during the pandemic with computers and stuff, you've seen that. I mean, it's like hiking like a couple $1,000s depending on the item in question. So,
Yep.
I don't know. How do you feel about that? Like the situation of like our world climate right now? Because I mean, like,
Um. mm, I I'm pretty sure. Like what you said, like with the Marilyn Monroe and stuff like that. Putin's he's very. I'm not gonna talk about Russia right now. Putin is very determined, and honestly, I don't know if he's going to be able to take over Ukraine. Right now, it seems that he's never going to stop because just of all the kind of cruel things that he's been doing right now, and especially because I think in recent like recent weeks, he's been like getting more aggressive in a sense,
right.
right?
Yeah.
With the bombing and stuff. Um, I mean, I don't know. I feel like this was like kind of inevitable because I don't know, just kind of been building up for a while, and I you know what, I honestly I can't wait to like um kind of tell kind of the future generations about what's happening, and if kind of like make historic, you know, kind of like like living in kind of history kind of, because going back to if we ever did to Ukraine being a part of Russia and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know, that would be an interesting tale.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I feel like there's kind of like a dissociation within the West, kind of like towards it. I mean, and then like other things, like strategically, I don't think it's like it won't work out because I mean, like, Russia within like the past like couple weeks has been threatening kind of like nuclear activity. I mean, they've also done like pretty abysmal and like essentially like stupid things like essentially
Mhm.
trying to blow up like nuclear power plants or like at least firing missiles at them, which I mean, that in itself is kind of crazy in itself. Then
Mhm.
they've also been threatening like kind of like nuclear missiles and stuff. Situationally, that's kind of like weird because land wise, the European like nations are relatively close together. So if like one actually did get hit by some sort of like nuclear activity, that would drift into another country
Mhm.
surrounding it. And then quite a few of
Right.
the surrounding nations with Russia and like Ukraine are NATO countries. So, I mean, that would cause another problem because if they are, that would essentially be an assault on their soil and that would technically allow NATO to directly confront them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I do agree with you that I guess we're kind of distance, even though we established like sanctions and stuff like that in Ukraine. Um, I don't really feel that we have too, when we probably don't have too much kind of like affecting them, and that's more of like Russia and Ukraine stuff. And I mean, we're not. I don't know, like how. And this is like a bad question, but besides oil and stuff, even that, if that affected us, have we really been affected by the war? Besides, like, yeah, I guess.
I'm just going to throw this out there, but it's kind of like the Afghanistan war. Like for Argent, like I would say probably anybody under 16 at the time, it was kind of like ending. It wasn't really present. Like we understood and it was there, but it also didn't like directly make an impact, if that makes sense. That's just
Okay,
my
yeah.
view.
Mm-hmm. Which is why you brought up the point of how we're not really connected with that. So yeah, the West, not really. Yeah. Um, let's see. What else about Russia? So for I read this article about how China and Japan and Taiwan, well, China is going to kind of have its own effect on Japan. Like it's going to kind of kind of take power from, or like gain power from Japan.
How so?
I that's yeah, okay.
Maybe
Good question.
economically?
Never mind. I have to research more about that. I probably shouldn't have said that. Anyway, but yes, I did read an article, and it's kind of like the whole kind of system between China, Taiwan, and Japan. And yeah. Anywho.
It's interesting. I mean, okay. Yeah, I'd agree. Okay. I don't know.
Mhm.
Most of the Asian countries are kind of like interconnected. A lot of them immigrate to each other as well. And they all
Right.
have their own. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
And
Especially. Oh yes.
yeah, we are also going to break.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
And we will be right back. we are back from our break. Okay.
Wonderful.
Okay.
I very much liked that commercial before that kind of brought us to our broadcast over here. It was talking about eating, excuse me, it was talking about eating healthy and just, about something about peanut butter, right? That's what I heard. So, about that, I've been listening to this guy and so of my entire family about, I've been listening to this person. His name is Max Lugavere, and he is a kind of, like health dietary kind of specialist, and he like writes books and about the New York Times, stuff like that, and writes in the New York Times. And one interesting thing that he said was kind of oil, in a sense, when you have like, you get your oil from canola oil, like almond, or you have almond oil from like almond butter, stuff like that. You have your olive oil. So they're so which this is kind of why eating out isn't like the healthiest thing, and we already know it doesn't because of the salt content, stuff like that. But one of the reasons why eating out is kind of unhealthy is because of the amount of oil that they use in their ingredients, and it depends on where you go, but normally like pastas and sauce and stuff like that, and normally has a lot of oil, and the processes to make small minute amount of oil is so processed, and it's so little from like an olive that 1 teaspoon is it's like so many calories and just so kind of unhealthy because of the processes that it's been through to actually get the olive oil. So that was one thing that I kind of researched and listened to on one of his podcasts, and it was very interesting, and it actually made me think about like how made me rethink about food and just how me and my parents have like thrown out like half our refrigerator just because of this guy. And yeah, eating healthy.
Interesting. Okay.
Right.
I didn't expect that. Okay.
It just reminded me of that. Yeah.
Okay. That's a very interesting topic. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, this was another thing that was brought up. Okay. So, did you want to talk about Nicholas Cruz?
Nicholas Cruz.
Yep. Parkland.
Nicholas.
Okay.
Oh,
So, essentially what was happening was he was getting on trial like within like literally the past few days. And they were deciding either to give him life sentence or essentially the death penalty. It was so what happened
Right.
was okay. So he had 17 first-degree murder counts in the case, and then it was a day of deliberation. So what happened was one of the jurors actually voted against giving him the death penalty. So right now he's actually getting life in prison. So there has been like a fairly vocal like outrage against him, like saying that he should have actually gotten the death penalty. I don't know. I mean, if you compare that to like the amount of lives he's taken.
Exactly. Yeah. Once you like go past the, I don't know, just how can I put this? Once you like affect another human being life, and if you kill someone, you have, oh my goodness, I'm just gonna put it like this: if you kill someone, you have no, you should be killed. Period. You should be. You took another person's life. Why is their life more important than yours? Blah blah blah.
Okay. I don't know. It's just been like a fairly outraged community right now because I mean it was like one juror, and then essentially the entire community was giving them backlash, saying you're probably biased and whatnot, and then they're essentially saying I'm unbiased. Da, 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 da. So I don't know if this might get like the trial might be like redone due to like essentially people protesting against it. But
oh well, you can't
I know.
go to this same for this, or you can't be tried for this same thing twice. So
yeah, but I wouldn't be surprised if something else popped up at this point. So
oh yeah, that's true.
we'll see.
Oh my goodness, I'd have to read more about that. Why people get the death sentence for a murder, and why why is he kind of the kind of air quotes exception if he is? I don't know what he did. I'd have to read more about that.
I mean, I'm pretty sure this has been covered by like a lot of people. There are like multiple ethical questions about it. I mean, like one, you're putting somebody in life, and he's like, how old is he? He's like maybe like 17 or something. He's like extremely young. And then like
Mhm.
let's just say like the average life of like a human male is like maybe 60, maybe 80 if they're lucky with like proper medical assistance. He's just gonna be there for life until he dies.
Yeah, exactly. And isn't life 25 years and not life like a life? Oh, life or a life sentence.
Life
Is it
sentence.
life? Same thing. Same thing,
Yeah.
right?
So
25 years. I think I've heard that before.
don't believe so. Maybe though. But either way, even if it is 25 years, you're essentially subjugating them for that
Exactly.
amount of
No.
time, which is already, I mean, almost like a double and like a half of what he actually has lived, and half of that you're not even fairly conscious for. So
Exactly, and your brain is still developing, and oh my god, you might as well. I mean, that's also actually really tough about when you go to jail, or just like when you're just isolated for so long, is that you're not seeing kind of the world develop, and once you get out, this is why a lot of people kind of go back and kind of like do a repercussion or whatever. Is that because life is so different and so like and yeah, it is different. It's so much has changed that you either don't know what's going on, you miss something, and you just don't know how to react. So you just go with what you're used to, and it's definitely it's tougher living in a different time period. I mean,
okay, we also have a caller on the line. I believe it is
all right,
Charlie.
excuse
Hello,
me.
John.
Hi.
I guess you're flying without Frank still.
Yeah, he's on
The
vacation till
the
next
young
week.
man that killed the 17 children,
Right.
and I guess 3 adults too,
Mm.
and wounded 17 others. He got life without parole, and that means until he dies, not 25 years.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Okay. I just wanted to explain that to you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, when is Frank coming back?
I believe he was on vacation for like this week and the week prior.
Well, I know he was
Yeah.
on because I listened to you last week.
I
Okay.
think he's coming
Very-
back next week though.
All right. Very good. I can't believe that Evan didn't jump in to explain that to you. That's a very important thing. I wish that they put the person down.
I don't
You
know.
know?
It's a
It's gonna
fairly
cost us
touchy
a lot of
subject.
money.
Yeah.
And it's out. He was a lot of the reason that they did this, supposedly, I guess, mitigating circumstances, was his mother drank and was an alcoholic while he was developing in the womb.
Mm.
But I mean, he lived for 17 years without killing anybody. I think he might kill somebody in prison, but that's just my opinion. I'll get off and listen to your wonderful show.
Okay. Thank you very
All
much.
right. Take care, John.
You
Bye.
as well.
Yes, thank you for the clarification.
Yeah. Okay. On a random lighter note. Okay. So this was an interesting one. So do you catch up with sports, Jamie, or no?
Not particularly.
Okay. Do you know about the Hand of God?
No.
Wow. Okay. That's surprising. I don't even watch it. I know. Okay.
Okay, sorry about that.
Talking about the Hand of God, it was essentially during like a world champion match in the soccer field, and it was kind of like extremely tied between two teams, and Diego Maradona essentially touched the ball and it went into the goal, and it was like fairly direct and you could see it, and everybody was like, okay, they're not going to get the point. Guess what? They got the point, and it caused them to win. So
touch the ball. Is that what you said? Touch the ball?
Yeah. And it wasn't a goalkeeper or anything. So, it was fairly amusing. And there's like, there's like videos and stuff around it. And it's been nicknamed the Hand of God because even the refs didn't call it. And then as a result, they won. So,
oh my goodness.
yeah, it was during the 1986 World Cup quarterfinal between England and Argentina. So yeah, it was a fairly interesting match to say the least. And right now, it's actually being. This was within the last like hour or so. It's being auctioned off for what they estimated between like 2.7 million dollars to kind of like $3.2 million. It's kind of like a
Or
rough estimation. So it's an interesting
for
time.
the 2.7 million for
The soccer ball.
oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Wow.
I mean,
Wow.
it's a fairly iconic match, but at the same time, I wonder.
That wow. Oh my goodness. People oh my goodness. That definitely would have caused some people to rampage. Definitely. Would have caused one. That's very interesting.
Mhm.
And very cool. Very cool.
This is also another interesting one since we are talking about kind of like OPEC earlier. So France was, this is also within the last 4 hours, I believe. France agreed to send kind of Germany gas. And it's the first time since the Russia energy crisis, though it's not a lot, it does help. It's about like 2% of their daily energy usage, though. So, I mean, on the context of a entire country, it's
Mhm.
it's something, but you know.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I have to say this. How do you know how much the world depends on Russia for oil?
I
Like
do not.
because it was a surprisingly
And
low amount considering how much like people like obsessed and stressed over it.
well, I mean,
So
it depends on like what you mean by that. Because I mean, like, is like not Venezuela, is like Argentina or one of them. I can't remember it off the top of the head. I think it's maybe Cuba. Is one of the Latin countries essentially due to it being under like a sort of like a communist dictatorship. The U.S. was kind of like stop producing oil and like do it kind of like on a more local level because we didn't want to support that. So like you have that, then you also have like Saudi Arabia. So
mhm,
yeah.
right. Right, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, and this is actually a fairly large percentage, 10% of the global oil supply.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, a little interesting side note there.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes, very, very nice. All right. Let's see what else we have.
Just going to look it up really fast just to make sure I actually had the countries
All right.
in question. Actually saw.
Oh my goodness. Youth in government is going so well. I did my speech for Commissioner of Agriculture the other day.
Really? Okay. How'd that go?
It was wonderful. I don't know. I have a thing for just writing and just, like kind of putting my emotion into speeches. And I think I did a very well job. And so basically, what we're doing for YIG is we're having a primary, kind of like a quote unquote primary election before we go to the general election because we can only send one person per kind of a per per role from each delegation to go to the general election and speak at state assembly. So we can only have like one person from the Treasure Coast delegation running for Commissioner of Agriculture. If there were two, then we can't have that. So which is why we kind of wrote speeches and kind of like wavered out the other person, so just one person represents Treasure Coast.
Yeah, okay. And I was correct. It was Venezuela and it has around 17 like 18% of the world's reserves. And then second it's Saudi Arabia, which has 17% of the world's reserves, and then Canada, then Iran, then Iraq, then Russia. And just like as a comparison between Venezuela and Russia, Venezuela has apparently about 340 billion, well, I think it's 1,000 millions of barrels in reserves compared to Russia's. It's essentially a third of that. So I don't know. It's very interesting, but it also depends on who as a society we'd be more willing to support.
Right, that's true. Wow, that is really interesting because yeah, it's making us go. This whole war is making us delve in deep into what the governments are choosing and stuff like that. Oh my goodness, wonderful.
I don't know. We've also
Ooh,
had,
wonderful.
yeah, societally, Venezuela is usually not looked on the best as well. So,
Yeah, that's true.
you know.
All right, let's see. A direct no. So one thing. Oh, okay. So this Mr. Frank actually sent me this article. So let's see. Researchers and scientists have kind of speculated about an Earth ocean. Sorry, an ocean under Earth's surface. Yeah, it's kind of interesting or kind of
Is there a
kind of
reason
kooky when you think about
why?
it.
Oh, okay. No, yeah, okay. That kind of makes sense. So it was like earlier this week, I was actually reading up on an article. It was talking about like diamonds and whatnot.
Hmm.
And I forgot which material it was, but essentially it's formed under high pressures, kind of like diamond, like extremely high pressures, but also needs like molecules that are kind of like found in water, which is also fairly strange. And it's only ever been found on kind of like asteroids and meteorites that have crashed into Earth. And
Right.
one of them
Yeah.
was dug up. So that kind of implies that somewhere there should be water, at least within a small reserve, contrary to popular belief. But I didn't think an entire ocean would be possible, if that is a thing.
Yeah, I don't know. It was actually this article says that it could be bigger than the ocean. I don't know. I don't even know how this is possible, but it could be bigger than the ocean that we see on Earth, or that that we know of on Earth right now, like the surface, which is very, very. It's very interesting and very kind of It brings a lot of questions to the surface, not the surface. It brings a lot of questions to the surface because it doesn't make it it's kind of hard to fathom, and realizing we haven't even seen like 99% of our ocean, what could be down there. Yes.
That's
Right.
interesting, because if you just throw it on like an entire another ocean.
Yeah, right. That is interesting. That is something. Yeah.
Okay, that is a really strange topic, actually, because I mean, if it's deeper in the Earth's mantle, I mean, supposedly that would probably be attuned to more heat. So I mean, I doubt there would be any sort of life there. But that's also
Right.
fairly weird for me to try to wrap my head around that, even contemplating there would be more life that we don't know of on Earth.
Hey, maybe that's where the aliens come from. Who knows? I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
That'd be interesting, though. But I mean, how would that be hidden? I don't know.
Yeah, right. And why would that be created? And if it was, when was it? Oh my goodness. When was it created? Like, what, under certain temperatures, are there diamonds underneath the Earth's surface that were just not that will never come to the surface? Oh my goodness.
Also, another one. This was I don't think you were on for this, but it was around like 2 years ago. The Arecibo Observatory Telescope collapsed in Puerto Rico. So the entire situation, I believe, was one of the ropes like supporting the giant satellite disk up had some sort of problem over the night, and it was going to essentially be resolved kind of like relatively immediately. But the pressure on it was too great that it kind of just fell apart. Just for reference, imagine a giant satellite dish held up by wires, held up by three giant obelisks, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's actually been around for pretty much forever, but it's pretty iconic as well. So it's been used to do like atmospheric studies, radio astronomy, and planetary radar, and it was opened in 1963.
Wow. And
It's
I
also
don't know
in a
if I heard
James
this wrong,
Bond
but
movie.
was there going to be another satellite shot into space?
Mm,
I think
what do you
I
mean
think I
by
heard
that?
of that. because okay. I think it might have been Elon Musk. I think so, if I'm not mistaken.
We had a recent. Give me a second. We had a recent rocket fired into space. I believe it was a Nordic countries. Like it was a private business and made it up to like 15,000 feet in the air. Then it kind of just dropped. I don't know if that's what you're talking about, though.
Mm,
And then,
I don't think so, but
okay.
I'll have to research that. Interesting fact, and this is something that was part of my project for physics, is there was this Chinese kind of scientist astronomer in, I believe it was around the 1600s, or yeah, something around the 1600s, where this person, his name was Huan Hu. He, and this is the first known kind of like, okay, so what he did was he sat in a chair, and this could be mythological, who knows, but thing it happened. Sat in a chair, attached 47 rockets, kind of because they just created their gunpowder, where in China gunpowder was created. That was the first kind of like known discovery of gunpowder. So basically created these rockets, or attached these rockets to a chair that he was sitting in. And what he did was he lit all of these rockets and he shot up into space. It is known, it is thought to be, but not proven, that he actually reached he actually reached low Earth orbit.
I mean, he would have been dead though.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh
Okay.
yeah, exactly. And we don't know if all the rockets were like straight, like it doesn't make sense. But that
Yeah.
was one thing. That was kind of a project that I was doing in physics, where we were researching these astronomers and stuff like that. And that came about, his name came about, and that was absolutely insane. But it's but it's like, it's still considered, which is pretty incredible, you know? And he was never heard of from again. You can imagine why.
Yeah. Okay. I would imagine why. Okay. This was also another thing. I think this might have been what you were talking about. So China launched another environmental satellite, and it's the third one they've. Wait. It's their third time with their third flight within 6 days. So I don't know if that's what you're talking about.
Possibly.
Okay.
Yes, all right. We have anything else interesting?
Not that I can
Ooh.
actually.
I heard Smile, which is a new horror movie, is a very good movie.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. I heard it was kind of more like a Bird Box parody.
Oh no. Oh, maybe, I don't know. Oh no. Okay. Bird Box is pretty good.
Okay. Just random question. Where do you see us progressing with space travel within the near future, just as a general question?
Okay, that's a good question.
Because recently, I believe it's like 2 days ago, I saw like NASA doing essentially like a hot air balloon kind of experiment, so we can actually kind of roam around like the atmosphere of Jupiter, which was fairly interesting. Because I mean, we actually did something with wings with ingenuity. So who knows?
Wow, that's interesting. I don't know. So, have you heard of the Big Bang Theory being questioned?
Yeah, because the James Webb Telescope. So essentially, what it is doing, since light travels, since we're so dispersed, light travels to us. It travels extremely fast, but relatively, it doesn't. So we can see back near
Right.
kind of like what happened as well.
So, yeah, right. When I heard about that, I'm like, whoa, that's how advanced we're getting right now, and that's how far, we could see, and just we're questioning these, known theories that we've gone by through so many years, and just what we've been taught. So I'm very excited and intrigued to see where that theory goes. And I don't know. I believe that we're getting very advanced very quickly. I don't know if that's kind of a problem or not. Don't really know, but it is very interesting to see the kind of big theories of space being questioned, which is, yeah.
No, it brings into like some interesting questions, I guess, because I mean, like, the universe is ever expanding, but what happens if like you kind of just try to get like further from like the center of the universe, one like from where we are now? Could you like see further back? I don't know.
Right.
Just interesting
Yeah.
things.
hmm I can't really wrap my head around the idea that we're always expanding, but we're not really moving. Like, why is our universe expanding, but we're not, right? Like, is Earth doing something? I don't even know.
Yeah, it's kind of like a fixed space, but it's kind of not as well. So,
hmm Yeah, and then all these, yeah. hmm Oh my goodness. Oh, it's great. Where do you see it go?
Hmm?
Where do you see our kind of space, kind of knowledge, or just technology going?
I don't know. It's pretty random in my opinion. So, like, a lot of it is kind of
Agreed.
like
Yeah,
a
agreed.
lot of it is like enterprise based, like you have Elon Musk and whatnot. Then you also have like other countries actually trying to do their own gig. I mean, last year, I believe it was like France, they launched their own rocket into space, which was pretty cool. Then you also had like projects across Europe. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but it was essentially a rover that was supposed to go onto Mars, but then it was postponed due to the war of Ukraine, and then it was dismantled as a result of that. And
Oh, wow. Wow, just things to rack your brain.
yeah, okay. We are nearing the end of the show, so we'll see you next week, and we're right here on WSU 1450. Bye.